If you're traveling for Thanksgiving this year, there's a few things that you want to pay attention to that could affect your holiday plans. We're expecting two weather systems to move across the country that could cause some issues, and also a big dip in the jet stream that arrive later in the week that will allow for some really chilly air to return to the forecast. So let's talk more about what is expected this week and how it could affect your holiday plans. So it's Sunday, November 23rd, and as we head through the week, we will see a big cool down in the forecast. In order to get that cool down, we'll have a few storm systems move their way across the country. So towards the end of Thanksgiving, we will see a shift in the pattern that will lead to more colder conditions as we move through the first week of December. And you can see that here by December 2nd, well below average temperatures expected from the southern plains all the way up into the northwest, where temperatures could be as cold as 20 to 30 degrees below average. And then eventually that cold air will shift even farther to the east as we move further into the month of December. So here's the jet stream forecast as we head through the next several days. We'll see that big dip as we go towards the end of this week, and then a secondary dip building across parts of the West Coast and Rockies. Both dips will allow for big storm systems to form, which will affect travel this week and also going into the first week of December. For now, things are pretty warm, especially across the southern plains and southeast, but you can see the cold air start to infiltrate parts of the U.S. going towards the end of this week and then into the weekend. We'll see an even colder shot as we push into the following week, so get used to the cold as it is trying to settle in over the next couple of weeks. Ahead of the cold, we actually have a few storm systems to watch right now. One is over parts of the southwest and Rockies, another one in the northwest as well, and then we also have a clipper system that is moving through the northeast, but specifically the two storm systems out west in the Rockies and northwest will cause problems through the week. So the storm system that's across the southern Rockies moving into the southern plains will actually have an opportunity to produce some strong to severe storms today, in addition to a little bit of snow over parts of Colorado. This storm system will continue to move eastward by Monday afternoon, actually getting to parts of Louisiana and Arkansas with more severe weather there and even potentially a tornado risk. This storm system will then move to the east, going to places like Tennessee and Kentucky and Ohio, and then eventually moving its way into the northeast going into Tuesday morning. And then Wednesday, it'll start to push out to sea. So this is going to be a multi-day event causing issues across a good portion of the country. As you can see, the rain still lingering Tuesday night and into Wednesday for New England. But once it clears out, we'll start to see some improving conditions, but another bigger storm will start to brew across the northwest. As I mentioned, there's a potential for some strong to severe storms, and there's just enough storm energy across the south to produce some of those stronger storms we'll have during this week. That could include anything from strong gusty winds and even a few tornadoes. So the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted parts of western Texas under level 2 out of 5 risk for today, and then tomorrow for parts of eastern Texas, southwestern Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana. Although this is level 1 out of 5 on the scale, this could increase over the next few days, so this is something we'll watch closely. Although there's a risk for an isolated tornado today, there's a better risk for locations eastward tomorrow across eastern Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. So these are locations that if you do live in this area, you need to be weather aware. It's a low risk right now, but this could increase as we head through the next 24 hours. So here's a quick look at storm helicity, which is basically the rotation in the atmosphere that a thunderstorm can tap into. It's the highest potential rotation. So if these amounts go up, is a better chance if a storm is around that area that there could be a rotating storm and then eventually a tornado. Notice how this becomes a little more focused tomorrow. This will be in the vicinity of those storms. So the higher the amounts, the red and white color, that's where you could see a couple rotating storms. Of course, the models aren't super specific with this, but it gives us an idea of where we could see that rotation tomorrow. Even though this is more widespread today as well, the storms won't be near this until tomorrow's forecast when the helicity and the storms actually collide in the same area. These storms will also be producing a lot of rainfall, where you could see an excess of 2 to 3, even 4 inches of rain out of these storms, and that's why there's a level 2 out of 4 risk for excessive rain, which could include some flooding as well. This shifts east on Monday, where we'll have another level 2 out of 4 risk for excessive rainfall. So if you live in these locations, you need to be weather aware for the severe weather and the potential for tornadoes, but also potential for localized flooding. There's even a risk on Tuesday, but thankfully this is level 1 out of 4 on the scale. We could see this increase, but I do think the amounts of rain will be lower in this area, so not as much of a risk as the other two locations both today and on Monday. So here's the precipitation forecast through Tuesday, and as you can see, there will be a few locations in the white color that pick up at least 3 inches of rain. So in these locations, at least what the model has, will have the higher amounts and the potential for that localized flooding. But anywhere within the excessive rainfall risk areas, you could have the potential for some localized flooding and flash flooding. So, in addition to the multi day severe risks that could cause travel trouble across the southern plains, we also have a weather system to track across the northwest that'll be producing not only rain, but also significant snow and maybe the first snowfall for some locations across the northern plains and into the Midwest. So, as you can see, as the system crosses the northern plains, it'll be producing snow for places like North and South Dakota, and then eventually into Minnesota, where we could see our first big snowfall for this area and even into northern Wisconsin once the storm gets into the Midwest. So there will most likely be some significant travel trouble through the Midwest, as you can see this system producing heavy snow from parts of Minnesota and eventually going into northern Wisconsin once it gets there. But there will be issues across this area traveling by car and potentially for the airports as well. And as we take a look at the snowfall forecast for the next 3 days, you can see where this storm system will be producing significant snow for parts of the northern tier of the U.S. We go up to the northwest, where the higher elevations could pick up 2 to 3 feet of snow in some of the Rockies and Cascades, and then eventually the storm system will start to move to the northern plains, where it'll deposit even more snowfall, and for some locations that'll be the first snowfall of the season. So from eastern Montana all the way to the UP of Michigan, there will be significant snow that comes from the storm. The heaviest amounts will most likely be concentrated in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the UP. So this is where we will see upwards of a foot of snow potentially for some spots, and at least 6 inches of snow, which is pretty substantial for parts of the Midwest this early in the season, at least away from Lake Superior. So this will be a stronger snowstorm eventually once it gets its act together across Minnesota and into the lakes region. So we'll be watching this storm closely for impacts, and if you are traveling in and out of this area, you could run into some issues on the roads and potentially at airports as well. There's also some snow in the forecast for New England, but it's for today's system. It's not associated with the one that's coming in out of the northwest. It's a clipper, so it's going to bring anywhere from an inch to 2, maybe even 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow for parts of the higher terrain of New England. So mainly across the Green Mountains and even into parts of upstate New York could see some substantial snow, but not nearly as much as we've seen from some bigger systems in the area. And we'll also see some snow today across Colorado with that storm that is over the southern Rockies pushing into the southern plains. It'll produce anywhere from 2 to 3, even 5 to 6 inches of snow for a good portion of the area, with isolated amounts up to 12 in the higher terrain. But looking way down the road after Thanksgiving, there'll be another substantial storm that starts to build as even colder air tries to work its way into the forecast. So this will be on Saturday and Sunday, potentially producing severe weather on one side of the storm and then snow on the backside. And there's even another system that tries to move through the Rockies, which may produce snow as far south as the higher elevations in Arizona and also New Mexico. So if you're curious how all this adds together in terms of travel, we will see some travel impacts each day of the week for certain locations, especially if you're traveling by air. So with the storm that's across the southern plains, we will have some impacts for travel, especially for tomorrow in places like Dallas, Houston, and then even going into New Orleans later into the evening as that storm system gets its act together. That'll also include some severe weather and even a few tornadoes in those locations we discussed earlier. And as we move into Tuesday's forecast, that same storm system will intensify and spread out quite a bit, affecting places from Minneapolis down to Atlanta, over to New York City, and even as far north as Buffalo. And then we also have another storm system moving into the northwest that'll cause some issues, most likely for Seattle. Fortunately, by Wednesday, that storm system will start to move out, but there'll still be some impacts for Detroit and Buffalo, and even Jacksonville, as the cold front part of that system will work its way through that area with some showers and storms, and then that storm system out in the northwest will start to expand a bit and affect Portland as well. For Thanksgiving, it's really the northwest that will have the significant impacts, although Buffalo could see some lake effect snow, and Miami could see some thunderstorm action. It's relatively quiet for Thanksgiving. Black Friday is also a similar forecast, with only Portland and Buffalo having issues with lake effect snow in Buffalo and some shower action for parts of Oregon. By Saturday, a larger system starts to get its act together across the plains and Midwest, and will have significant travel impacts for several airports in the region. Even by Sunday, there'll still be some impacts from the storm system moving across the country, so make sure to keep checking the forecast over the next several days. Now, looking ahead, we'll be tracking a big pattern shift as we move into the first week of December, and that'll include an Arctic blast where we'll see some pretty cold temperatures across a good portion of the U.S., specifically through the northern plains. There'll also be more snow with that forecast as well in places that haven't seen snow so far this season, and I'll have a winter update as we get closer to the start of meteorological winter, which starts on December 1st. And if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and check out more of our video forecasts over here, and I'll see you in the next forecast update.